Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I'm Dr. K.R. Ramamohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to discuss a module on the Constitution and the Scheduled Tribes and Pseudo Tribes. This module comes under the paper Indian Anthropology. So before we go to this module, let us see what are the learning objectives. To learn about the fundamentals of the Constitution of India, to know different scheduled tribes in India, and to understand what is specifically important about Article 342. And we also understand what are the recent amendments in the Constitution with regard to scheduled tribes. One of the prominent intellectual India has produced is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He was the chairman for the drafting committee to bring out what is required the Constitution of India. Under his chairmanship, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has studied all the other constitutions in the world, and with the help of many intellectuals, they framed the Constitution of India, and he is also rightly called is the father of the Indian Constitution. And B.R. Ambedkar's insights were very useful in the empowerment of all the deprived classes in India who have suffered long-term social exclusion and have been exploited in many ways. So one of the preamble of the Constitution of India and the spirit of Constitution of India is to treat all people in the society are equal, to give the principles of fraternity, the principles of solidarity, the principles of equality, and the concept of justice is an enshrining tenet of the Constitution of India, which clearly says that every human being in Indian soil has the dignity to live freely and express his opinion, and is no slave to any kind of situation, and no one is discriminated against his color, creed, language, religion, regionality, or ethnic background. This kind of spirit, which is one of the hallmark of Constitution of India, has not been seen in many parts of the world. The Constitution is a synthesis of the best practices and principles which promotes a democratic way, a secular way, and gives the full recognition, human dignity to live as human beings with the fullest potential one can realize to promote the well-being not only for himself but for the entire community. Hence, the Constitution of India can be understood as a body of fundamental principles or established precedents where the government or the state is supposed to govern the population of this country. It is like a guiding principle where it is written clearly that everyone is entitled to live with the spirit of humanity. Hence, the Constitution of India is also been considered in its entirety that it could be the supreme law in this country. As I said, Dr. Ambedkar is the principal architect of this Indian Constitution. He is the driving force to consolidate the best practices that are being there in many governments. And how does it function? Constitution is basically the directive principles where the government should function, or the system of governance should be followed at each and every level. In that sense, it basically takes the parliamentary system in a sense that we have to elect our own representatives. It is devoid of the hereditary, devoid of the feudal, devoid of the military, and devoid of the tradition-based kingdoms. We have the right to choose whom and how we should be governed, who should be the lead our own governing bodies. That is the parliamentary system, where everyone has an equal right in the form of franchise. We can choose who one is eligible to lead us by not depriving individual rights. That is the whole beauty and spirit of parliamentary system. Hence, the whole constitution is basically federal in a sense that it promotes solidarity, it promotes fraternity, which is culminated that everyone is united in both letters and in spirit. Being understood that the essence of why and how this constitution is made up of, there could be so many articles, clauses are there which protects each and every one. It also promotes individual liberty and freedom. As students of anthropology, and more so when we are talk of scheduled tribes in particular, we need to understand the rationality and the utility of Article 342, which specifically devoted to the welfare and the protection of scheduled tribes. In that spirit, we have to see how scheduled tribes are governed. Because of the diversity of the scheduled tribes in India, as we all know, there are almost 635 principal scheduled tribes, including the sub-tribes which constitute these social groups. Anthropological Survey of India, which is considered to be the largest research organization in the world, has come out, said that there are 524 principal tribes and there are many more sub-tribes, which includes 635 tribes, which are distinct in their own ways and life. Each tribe is distinct with the other tribe. And we know that scheduled tribes are classified into various unique features in terms of their language, in terms of their physical features, in terms of their ethnic identities, in terms of their geographical locations, in terms of their economy. So given this such diversity, how to bring these scheduled tribes and to empower them on their own? So Constitution of India committed to the welfare of the people, and India being a welfare society is further equally committed to look for these communities who are so-called traditionally not developed on par with the other parts of the social groups in India. So these communities are put under as scheduled in a sense that they need special attention because they have been isolated for centuries together. They have no physical contact with the rest of the India. So the policy framers, the intellectuals thought that they need to group under scheduled, and hence the term scheduled tribe has come. And it is specifically spelled out in Article 366, Clause 25, that any social group considered to be a tribe is that such tribes or tribal communities are part of the group. It could be even sub-tribe also with that main tribes, or being included in this constitution. Hence, this community is called a scheduled tribe. And why certain community is not a scheduled tribe? Because of these features, because of language, because of dialect, because of geographical location, because of their technology, because of their primitiveness, and any other distinctive pattern which is not there with other tribe. Hence, these diverse groups, which are very small in size, needs attention. And you know that how British has understood these traditional communities. They lumped together all the social groups and they classified them as these are all depressed class, because for them these people are exotic, these people are primitive. So they do not know how to classify these people according to their culture, because they are only administrators. They do not know what is the empirical reality out there as depressed class. To reiterate the point once again, and for our own understanding, that a scheduled tribe, or when we say that a community belongs to a scheduled tribe, must meet all these criteria, like it should be primitive in their traits, they have uniqueness, they do not have a psychological disposition to come in contact with the other mainstream social groups, and these people are geographically dispersed and isolated, and they cut off from the so-called mainstream society, and they are economically backward when compared with the other communities in the mainstream India. So let us understand some of the major tribes in India. One of the important tribes from South India, Andhra Pradesh, are the Yanadi. Yanadi tribe is basically a nomadic tribe, and some Yanadis, you can see some parts they are settled. They are uniquely identified for their basket making. They make these baskets for domestic use, and they are specialized with this kind of trade. Despite their having a small dialect, they still follow the main Telugu script. When it comes to their eating pattern, they are famous for eating rabbits, fowl, goat, sheep, and they also consume fish. But interestingly, they abstain from eating beef. Yanadi tribe, means they are nomadic. They resort to certain beverages when they celebrate festivals and major life cycle ceremonies and fairs. We also see from south to the western part of Rajasthan, where Meenas are considered to be a major important tribe in this part. Meenas are considered to be a largest scheduled tribe in the state of Rajasthan, and this group is heavily concentrated in Jaipur, Alwar, Bharatpur, Savai, Madhopur, Tonk and Bundi districts. Since this is an oldest tribe, this tribe is basically settled agriculture. Along with the settled agriculture, we can also see animal husbandry, and some of the people from this tribe do also take manual labor, and they have moved socially mobility, and we can see these tribes in many state and central government services. One of the important features of Meenas are they have their own dialect called the Braj Bhasha, which has the Devanagari script. So Meenas constitute, and they are very unique in their marriage rituals and life cycle ceremonies. Now, being understood that there are important tribes in Andhra Pradesh, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, in northeastern tribes, in Rajasthan, and many more tribes. The Indian Constitution is very much interested to develop them, and basing on their level of development and their cultural uniqueness, these communities are placed under scheduled tribes. But the central question is, how can a community can be labeled as a scheduled tribe? Will any community with less development can be called as a scheduled tribe? Can they categorize that and they give all kinds of privileges or extensions for development because they are not developed? So in that sense, Article 342 clearly states that, which is under the control of the President of India, with respect to any state or union territory, and where is it a state, after consultation with the governor, thereby a public notification, if any community or any social group or a traditional group specify that the tribes or tribal communities are parts of groups within the tribes like sub-tribes, which shall for the purposes of this constitution is deemed to be scheduled tribe in that relation of the state, as the case may be. So the whole power is vested with the President of India to declare any community as a scheduled tribe or not, which has a certain specific characteristic features. And if we look at the India map, the political map of India or the geographical map of India, we can find scheduled tribes in almost all the states, barring two states, the small states of Pondicherry and Punjab. So scheduled tribe distribution is been scattered all parts of India, and according to the census 2011, the states of Mizoram and Lakshadweep has the highest percentage of scheduled tribes, where we don't see much scheduled tribes in Punjab, Haryana and Pondicherry. Now, Who has the authority to issue a scheduled tribe certificate, and how does it go? If any person claims to belong that he is a scheduled tribe and he wants a government certificate stating that I belong to a scheduled tribe to avail himself certain privileges and constitutional guarantees and constitutional affirmative actions to improve oneself, the person and his parents actually belong to the community claim. He has to be verified. And the community is included in the presidential order or not, because the presidential order states that these 500 or 600 tribes are considered to be scheduled tribes. They need these kinds of reservation. And each state has its own list of scheduled tribes. So, whether the person claiming that I am a scheduled tribe will fall under this category enlisted by the state government, one has to look into that. Only then one can issue a scheduled tribe certificate. So, in that sense, the person belongs to that state and to that area which he says that he belongs to that community. Only then the certificate can be issued. Nevertheless, he can have any kind of religion, but religious certificate cannot be given. He can practice Hinduism, he can practice Islam, or he can become a Christian, but the community identity must be clarified. And he should be a permanent resident on the date of the notification, which in the presidential order applicable in this particular case. So if a person who is temporarily away from his permanent place of abode at the time of notification of the presidential order applicable in his case, say for example, like education, etc., employment, etc., if we see the percentage wise scheduled tribe population across all over the India. So Mizoram has the most percentage, where 94% most of them are tribes, followed by Nagaland, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and the least tribes comes from Himachal Pradesh, where only 4% of tribes are there. Talking about this constitutional rights and guarantees, the Constitution of India has clearly enshrined that any individual has the freedom of speech, and all citizens shall have the right to the freedom of speech and expression, to assemble peacefully without any arms. One can form associations and unions for good purpose if the ends are very good, if the means are very good. And any person can move freely throughout any part of this country. We are not restricted. No one can say no to anyone. We are entitled because the whole country belongs to everyone. No one can claim that this is my part. And one can reside and settle in any part of the territory. One has the freedom to choose any profession, not dictated by the caste. One can change their profession from any time according to his skills and needs and aspirations. With this, he can carry any type of activity for a living. So these kinds of freedoms are being enshrined in the Constitution of India. Then more specifically to the scheduled tribes, has enlisted that any community should fall under, should have the tribal status, where Article 29 clearly says that provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So in the subclass of class 1, Article 19 shall prevent the state from making any special provision by law for the advancement of socially backward citizens of scheduled castes. More specifically, the Constitution of India says that in the 5th schedule, Article 244, Clause 1, says that in this schedule, unless the context otherwise requires, the expression state does not include states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, where other areas are considered to be as the scheduled areas. So the executive power of the state in the scheduled areas, subject to the provisions of the schedule, the executive power of the state extend to scheduled areas therein. So with the report by the governor to the president regarding the admission of scheduled areas, the governor of each state having scheduled areas therein shall annually or whenever so required by the president make a report to the president regarding how the administration is going on in these scheduled areas. So if we look at the entire political map of India, we can say the scheduled tribes have a tendency to concentrate more in remote and less hospitable areas. That these communities are spread over in very remote areas where there is less population. And their spatial distribution is characterized by striking tendency of clusters and pockets. They live in little pockets and all. So in that sense, one has to remember how the scheduled tribes are being placed in the Constitution of India. And who has the power to declare that this social group belongs to scheduled tribe? So the President of India has the power by taking consultants with the individual states and governors, by taking the submit of the report. If this social group consists of these characteristics, like they are backward, they are primitive, they are unique, distinctive in culture and language, on these recommendations, the President of India can declare through the Act of Parliament that this community can be treated as or regarded or labeled as a scheduled tribe. And most of the scheduled tribes are scattered all over India. Some states have highest percentage, some states have lowest percentage because of the geographical distribution. And the Constitution of India guarantees certain provisions and privileges for their empowerment.